Fellow Ghanaians, good morning. In recent days, the phrase Nigeria must go is being thrown around on our streets and amplified on some media platforms as though Ghana were a country teetering under the siege of Nigerian criminals. And as though the answer to our economic and social frustration is to whip up resentment against foreigners who are living peacefully among us. The images are familiar. A handful of protesters marching with placards, some traders threatening to eject Nigerians from markets, sensational commentary suggesting an organized syndicate of foreigners operating with impunity. But what should worry us at most is not the size of these protests, which, truth be told, are very small and obscure and fringe. It is the sentiment behind them, the embers of hate they threaten to light, and the silence of complacency that allows such fires to spread until they consume a nation's value. Ghana must not and will not walk down the dark path of xenophobia. We have seen what that path leads to in other parts of the continent. In South Africa, we have watched with horror as mobs periodically unleash violence on foreigners, accusing them of, quote, stealing jobs, taking women, or fueling crime. We have seen shops looted, people beaten, and in the worst of cases, lives have been lost, justified in the poisonous language of nationalism that has been twisted, really, xenophobia. Is that what we want to be in Ghana, to be remembered as the land where Kwame Nkrumah's dream of Pan-African solidarity was betrayed by street mobs shouting Nigeria must go? Our founding story is one of unity, not exclusion. Kwame Nkrumah stood before the world and declared Ghana's independence meaningless unless it was linked with the total liberation of Africa. He poured our resources in supporting independence struggles from Congo to Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and to South Africa. Ghana became the heartbeat of Pan-Africanism because we believe that the destiny of Africa was shared, that the borders drawn by colonial powers did not define our humanity, and that we were one people bound by history and hope. How then can we, children of that vision, suddenly turn on our brothers and sisters across the Niger and pretend that xenophobia is patriotism? We have to be clear, fellow Ghanaians. By all means, the law must be enforced. Foreigners who commit crimes must face the same justice as Ghanaians. The GIPC Act clearly states that retail trade is reserved for Ghanaians, and government has every right to enforce that provision. People must demand that. But when foreigners breach immigration laws, trading rules, or other statutes, the state must act firmly. But enforcing the law is not the same as demonizing entire nationalities. Justice is blind. It does not wear a Nigerian, Togolese, or Ghanaian flag. When a foreigner breaks the law, punish the offender, but do not use that as a brush to paint all foreigners as criminals. That is not law enforcement, that is prejudice. And here's the point, fellow Ghanaians. Many Ghanaians conveniently are avoiding this. If Ghanaian consumers are flocking to Nigerian traders, it is not simply because Nigerians have cornered some markets illegally. It is because often they offer better service, fairer prices, and a customer-friendly attitude that keeps people coming back. A few months ago, when the cedi was ranked as the best performing currency in the world, many Ghanaian traders flatly refused to reduce prices. The same traders who raised prices instantly at the fainter depreciation kept them high, and when the currency gained strength, they did not reduce them. Who then should customers blame for preferring alternatives? Nigerian and other foreign traders often succeed because they are willing to lower margins, move goods faster, and treat customers well. Instead of protesting, perhaps some Ghanaian traders should look inward and ask themselves why customers are voting with their wallets. The danger of xenophobic rhetoric is that it thrives on exaggeration. A crime committed by one Nigerian becomes evidence of Nigerian syndicate. A misunderstanding in the market becomes proof of foreigners taking over. Soon, the stories multiply, repeated on radio, shared on WhatsApp, until suspicion hardens into hatred. And once that is normalized, it does not stop at Nigerians. Tomorrow, it will be Togolese, next it will be Ivorians. Soon, any stranger becomes a target. That is the slippery slope we must avoid at all costs. Fellow Ghanaians, history itself should make us cautious. In 1969, Ghana enacted the Aliens Compliance Order, forcing thousands of West Africans, many of whom had lived here for years, even generations, to leave within a short time. Families were uprooted, businesses collapsed, lives were torn apart. The scars of that decision still linger in the memories of those who were cast out. Then in the early 1980s, the Nigerians also turned the tables. Nigeria, facing its own economic troubles, expelled over 1 million Ghanaians in the infamous Ghana Must Go order. Our people, carrying their belongings in checkered bags, walked and buzzed across borders, humiliated, traumatized, and branded as unwanted. We know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of xenophobia. We know the pain of being told to go home when all you want is dignity. Why then will we inflict the same on others? We must never forget that today millions of Ghanaians live abroad, in Nigeria, in the UK, in the US, in Germany, in Canada. They sell in the markets, they work in hospitals, they drive taxis, they teach in schools. They too have faced suspicion and resentment, and they too have been told they are taking jobs. They too have suffered discrimination. How would we feel if tomorrow London traders marched shouting Ghanaians must go? How would we feel if New York landlords started evicting Ghanaian tenants? How would we feel if Nigerians turned around and chased out the Ghanaian communities in Lagos, in Abuja? We will cry injustice, and we will be right. So let us not go the same path, and let us do unto others as we want to be done unto us. We also need to reflect on what this xenophobia reveals about our governance. It is easier to scapegoat foreigners than to fix broken systems. When crime rises, it is easy to say Nigerians are responsible, rather than admit our police are under-resourced. When jobs are scarce, it is easier to blame foreign traders than to confront the lack of industrialization. And when prices soar, it is easier to accuse foreign profiteers than to hold our government accountable for economic management. Xenophobia is the lazy man's politics, the coward's governance. It distracts from the real issues, offers simple enemies for complex problems, and blinds citizens to the failures of their leadership. The media too must take responsibility. Platforming xenophobes is not neutrality, it is complicity. Every time a microphone is handed to someone spewing hate, every time a TV station sensationalizes Nigeria must go, it lends legitimacy to ignorance. The media is not obliged to broadcast poison in the name of balance. Hate speech is not opinion, and xenophobia is not patriotism. And when media platforms allow it to go unchallenged, they are not informing the public, they are feeding the fire. We cannot afford that fire, fellow Ghanaians. This country is already stretched by unemployment, economic stress, and political polarization. Adding ethnic or xenophobic conflict will be catastrophic. Our border communities are fragile. Our security agencies are already stretched by conflicts like Boko and Benyiri. Do we really want to add anti-foreigner riots to the list of our national crisis? What then must be done when it comes to these matters? The government must enforce the laws consistently and transparently. If foreigners are violating retail rules, address it legally. And secondly, mob action is not the way to go. Security agencies must respond firmly to any xenophobic protests that threaten violence. The right to protest does not include the right to endanger others. Our political leaders must speak clearly and loudly against xenophobia. Silence is not neutrality, it is consent. And civil society, religious leaders, and traditional authorities must remind Ghanaians that we are one people and that our hospitality is part of our national character. To our traders, we have to be honest. The real problem is not the Nigerian at Abosiokai. The real problem is the lack of fair competition, the culture of profiteering, the refusal to reduce prices when the economic situation is stable, the habit of treating customers with disdain. You have to fix these, and you will not need to chase anyone out. Customers will return willingly, compete with service, not with xenophobia. And then we have to remember who we are. Ghana is not a land of hate. This country is a land that hosted independent movement across Africa. Ghana is the land that opened its door to South Africans during apartheid, to Liberians during civil war, to refugees across the region. This is the land of Nkrumah's panafricanism, of Kofi Annan's diplomacy of hospitality and solidarity. That is our true identity. We do not have to trade it for the cheap coin of xenophobia. Fellow Ghanaians, we must shut down this Nigeria must go nonsense before it grows legs. We must tell those peddling hate that they are offside, that they do not speak for the majority of us, that Ghana will not betray its soul. And then we must enforce our laws. We must also defend our values. We must remind ourselves that a stranger we chase away today may be the brother we need tomorrow. And before I sign off, permit me on a personal note. In a few days, my hometown of Nankese will launch the Nankese Festival, a celebration of culture, unity, and progress. To all brothers and sisters from Nankese, this is the moment to go home, to join hands, to honor our heritage. Plaudits to the chiefs and people of Nankese and to the Friends U organization who continue to work tirelessly for the community's development. We need to show up by our presence and our support that true patriotism begins at home in how we build our towns and preserve our culture, not by chasing foreigners up and down simply because they are trying to make a life in our country. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.